Hey guys, what's up? Mister4Stroke back with another video from Bangalore. And as you guys must have guessed with the title, this is the Pulsar RS200, the 2016 model. 2016 model, right? Yeah, this is the 2016 model Pulsar RS200 with the ABS, if you guys are wondering. And this is the owner Mayank, and he's been more than happy to give this bike to me for a ride and take it for a short spin to review it. And he's done close to about 5,000 kilometers on this bike now. And we'll see how this fares up against his competition in the real world riding conditions. And we'll test it out here in Bangalore so we can see how this bike performs in all the riding conditions, considering the urban. Even I'll tell you about the sports touring credentials as well as the how this bike performs in the highway. Okay, so powering this bike is the Bajaj patented triple spark technology engine, which puts out a maximum power of 24.5 PS at 9,500 RPM and 18.6 Newton meters of torque at 7,000 RPM, which comes mated to a 6-speed gearbox, which is super slick and precise. And considering this fact that the 4-valve 4-stroke technologies on this bike is completely awe-inspiring, and this comes with the fuel injection, this bike absolutely nails the competition with this closest rival, the KTM RC200. So this bike really puts forward that extra dash of performance when you crack open the throttle. The only drawbacks on this bike is that some people agree with the styling, some don't. So the styling on this bike is pretty debatable. People might find it inspiring or good looking, some people might not. And even the tail light, people might find it to be a little bit over styling, but I think this puts an extra dash of excitement and look to the bike, and it really appeals to the overall aesthetics of this bike. And I only think Bajaj could have done with better tires on this bike. This is the Nilo Grip Zapper S. They provide decent grip once you get into the temperature, but it's nowhere as compared to the amount of grip offered by the KTM RC200, which also has MRF tires. So Bajaj could have done it a bit better there. And this bike comes packed with technologies which was never seen before in any of the previous Pulsars, like the full fairing, the fuel injection, the daytime running lights along with the twin projector headlamps, and also the single channel ABS. So that was something Bajaj has re-innovated in this bike itself, starting this model. And this has definitely pushed Bajaj onto a further competition. And so let's take a ride and I'll tell you how it feels. Starting off this bike, you can immediately tell that the refinement level of this bike is too high, along with the exhaust sounds very sweet. So let's go ahead, start this bike. Let's get on with the review. You can immediately tell that the performance of this bike is way over 200cc bikes can have. Including the fuel injection, the simply spot on liquid cooling, along with pretty other features which makes this bike an absolute steal. This is definitely one of the trademarks bike Bajaj has ever produced. This certainly is a full-fed bike, but it does provide you the comfort which you would expect from Bajaj motorcycles. It is a full-fed bike, but the handlebars are pretty upright, so you don't have that bent forward position like the KTM RC, which is very sports corner attacking posture. This thing does have the comfortable seating posture which you'd expect from a motorcycle like this. And with that comes the fact that you can take this bike out on track, of course, because it has the full fairing, the aerodynamics which you require on the track. Along with that, this bike gets the comfortable long distance touring you can do. And last year in 2016, in December, I guess, me and my friend who owns this bike, we went to Mysore and we had absolute fun. We never really had any issues with both of our bikes. And with that I can say that this bike really performs well on the highways as well. So considering that thing, I think Bajaj has absolutely nailed the competition on the head, giving the KTM RC200, which is its closest rival, a run for its money. The new 2017 model gets updates like the auto headlamp on feature, which gets the DRL and the low beam on every time you crack open the engine. But you still have the high beam low beam switch. You can switch between the high beam and low beam with the switch itself. I'm going at almost 40 to 43 right now, and this bike feels so calm and composed. I've taken my friend's RS to almost 110, 112, not this one, my other friends. and I've had absolutely no problem with the bike. You can easily take this bike to higher speeds, and it won't have any issues like as such as vibrations or anything, because this is fuel injection. It has all the refinement you'll ever need. And the complete claims this top speed to be somewhere around 140, but according to the Churn test track done by the professionals who tested the bike when it was launched, they have clocked a top speed of somewhere around 152, which is pretty good considering the KTM RC only gets to somewhere around 136 or 137. And if you were to ask me, to choose between this thing and the KTM RC200, I'd opt for this bike any day, because the amount of the adrenaline flowing in your hand and the brand Pulsar immediately reminds you that what this bike is capable of and what it can do in all the riding conditions you'd put it to. And while coming back to where this review started, we stuck to in pretty much bad traffic at some places, but the fan was not on. So I can say that the liquid cooling is pretty spot on. You can ride this bike all day in traffic, getting stuck in some, how Indian conditions are, right? Not just anyone, but anything can come in your way, along with, bad traffic is almost everywhere. You will have absolutely no problem with the overheating of this bike, but yeah. Once you do ride this bike a lot of time in the traffic, you will definitely feel that the heat is coming onto your legs. But the radiator does a pretty good job along with the liquid cooling feature on this bike. So the on-road price of this thing was somewhere around 1.6 lakh. That's what my friend bought it in December, I think. December, right? November. He bought it in November 2015 at 1.6 lakhs on road. Considering that this is almost 40,000 cheaper than the KTM RC200, which is the competition manufactured by Bajaj itself, because the KTM India comes under Bajaj. So I think people should opt for this bike more than the KTM RC200. But then of course, if you're a cornering junkie, if you consider yourself carving out the corners on weekends, and you definitely need to go for the RC200. But for everybody else, this bike will make a lot of sense. And even with the breathtaking performance it delivers, this bike gets a decent fuel economy of somewhere around 40 kilometers on the highway, and somewhere around, how much is the mileage in the city? 36 kilometers in the city. So there was a 2017 RS200 standing there. Wow, what a good sight, considering that's my favorite Bajaj Pulsar, the new one, 2017 one. So getting a fuel economy of somewhere around 36 kilometers in the city and 42 kilometers on the highway is pretty good, considering this is a 200cc bike with fuel injection and every other update, which would make it absolutely fit against the competition in no matter what. So considering that, the fuel economy and everything is pretty good, so it will be pocket friendly on the maintenance front as well. And every free servicing should be costing you somewhere around 500 or 800 rupees. So we're stopped at this signal right now. Let me just take a moment to tell you guys about what I've felt so far after riding this bike. I can immediately tell that this bike is so darn refined. You don't feel any vibration whatsoever when you're riding in low RPMs, Like some of the bikes, even my Apache has a bit of vibrations in the lower RPMs, but this thing is so darn refined. You can ride this thing in traffic all day, you won't feel the buzz anywhere in the handlebars or the foot pegs or the tank or anywhere. And this holds the tank capacity of almost 13 liters with 1 liter reserve. So this tank looks beefy, but it's actually stored somewhere around 30 liters, so that's quite disappointing. Bajaj definitely could have added, somewhere around 16 liters of fuel tank, to make it that much more easier for long distance touring. But then again, you can always take a fuel stops as brake when you're touring. So since this bike has ABS, single channel ABS, it's only operational on the front brake itself. It's not completely intrusive on the rear wheel. So when you do aggressive downshifts along with panic braking, you can end up locking your rear wheel, but that's okay. You won't end up sliding or somewhere as long as you keep the bike under your control. If somebody prefers to learn on this bike, which you definitely shouldn't, but if someone does, you can jam on the brakes when you're in a pinch, because the ABS takes care of everything. But the tires, they definitely could have been made a little bit more stickier. MRS Zapper, which you find on these bikes, are not having a good reputation in the market. They do give the grip needed when you get them to the temperature, but other than that, if you don't have them to the temperature and you start going outright on the corners just when you've cranked open the bike in the starting, you can end up having, having the bike fishtailing here and there when you enter the corners. You can always offer aftermarket tires from Pirellis or, the other MRS or Michelins or whatever you want, but this has done somewhere around 5,094 kilometers in the odometer as of now. This tire will be having a life of somewhere around 20,000 kilometers, that's what I expect. This bike is performing exceptionally well in the riding conditions, It's not like KTM, the heat and everything which gets to you when you ride a KTM in the city. Oh, look at this Activa racer. So when you definitely ride a KTM in the city, even the 200, they heat up a fair bit when you ride in the traffic and stuff. But this bike definitely doesn't. It might depend on the model itself, but this bike, I can easily ride this thing in the city and won't have any heat issues at all. Since the liquid cooling and the radiator works like a charm in this thing. You can easily take this bike on traffic and stuff all day. You won't have any issues at all. You can ride this thing all day. These kind of idiots you see on the road, they block the street. I don't know what they're doing. They should look for the traffic and then cross, but that's fine. Idiots everywhere. This is India. You should shift the gears between the speed intervals of 12 to 15 kilometers to keep the bike well maintained and smoothly running, but I always suggest you never ride any bike in the higher RPMs for a longer time, because that might spoil the refinement of the bike if you keep the bike in higher RPMs for a longer time. So I always suggest you ride the bike in lower RPMs, and I think that's about it for this video. I'll get back to you with another review or another motor vlog or something in the next video. Until then, stay tuned for my channel. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. Hit that red subscribe button, and if you did like the video, please give me that like. It really helps, it motivates me a lot. And watch out for the next video. I'll see you soon. Until then, take care, bye bye, ride safe, and over and out.